Fantasy Bros, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Astrology channel. We got an absolute banger for you here today. This is going to be a masterclass. I'm going to be teaching my astrology theory on fantasy football, and I'm also going to be putting it to the rigors. I'm going to put it to the test. Just how effective is astrology in fantasy football? And so before I answer that, I have to share with you a little bit about how I use astrology. There are many different ways that astrology is used. One of the most commonly understood ways is horoscopes, event astrology, which is not exactly how I use it. Astrology began showing up in my life most prevalently in my relationships. I'm a fire sign. I noticed all of my girlfriends, all of my best friends, all the people who I really adored in my life were also fire signs. Okay, so I began discovering this. In hindsight, the compatibility in relationships is a very powerful indicator. And so I began discovering it in football when I saw Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, and they had an absolutely just amazing connection. Ben Roethlisberger would force Antonio Brown the ball at times, and they would just make it work. It would be triple coverage. It was a play I saw Ben Roethlisberger forced it into triple coverage where I said, I have to know what their signs are. Sure enough, I look it up. Ben is a Pisces. Antonio is a Cancer. That's perfect chemistry in astrology. Then I found it with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, and the list keeps coming. Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp this year also have that perfect chemistry. So I began discovering that, and also along the way, I began discovering that it's very important that this transition in the types of astrology is a very important component. This is what's called types, and you notice that there's no polar opposite here. So there's always a vacuum. There's always an attraction happening within the types, right? So this is very prevalent. This is the main rule. And then if they can get matching signs, if they can get polar opposite signs, there are more nuances to this theory. And so we're going to go over every single NFL team. I'm going to talk just briefly on what I believe is going on there and whether or not this theory has actually accurately predicted this environment. Let's start it, guys. First off with Detroit. Absolutely Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got a Cardinal quarterback in Goff. He's a Libra, moving to a fixed in the Scorpio. That's air moving into water. That is absolutely what we want to see. Perfect chemistry, yes. Green Bay, we've got Sammy Watkins and Romeo Doubs. Two receivers are their top two receivers. You've got a Gemini in Watkins, and you have an Aries in Doubs, and both of those guys are very strongly indicated as being the lead role. So 2 weeks into the season, Green Bay absolutely is checking the mark. Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, I've talked about this many times before. Very good chemistry in astrology. Leo, fire, air, polar opposite chemistry, along with, you got fixed Leo moving towards that mutable Gemini. We love to see it. We could call that all day, every day. Okay, Chicago. This is very interesting. No one would have thought 2 weeks into the season that it would have been Equanimous St. Brown as the lead receiver over there so far. But it makes sense, okay? Because Justin Fields wants to move, as a Pisces, wants to move to that Cardinal Libra more than he wants to even move backwards towards that fixed Scorpio. Although they do share water elements, I do believe that that is creating the stronger attraction to Equanimous. Will it maintain? It'll be very curious to see. But as of now, astrology has been ahead of the game. It's been ahead of the experts, and it's predicted that environment. Okay? Dallas, Cooper Rush. I called it already with CeeDee Lamb. He's been getting the most targets. Yeah, I'm going to say Dallas is a check mark. Washington. Here's a profound one, guys. You've got Carson Wentz as a Cardinal. The only fixed in that environment, who is that, guys? That's Curtis Samuel. Nobody would have predicted Curtis Samuel would be to emerge as the number one. The least likely, Terry McLaurin, the mutable. He doesn't want to move backwards into that mutable, even though they both share earth element. And also with Dotson as a cardinal, he stays home. That's the second most favorable alignment with the type. So it's almost following this to an absolute T right now. And nobody, except astrology, would have predicted that environment to go that way. Philadelphia, here it is. This is the first one where I'm going to say A.J. Brown should not be favored over Devontae Smith in that offense. So you have Hurts as a fixed, shouldn't be moving backwards into the Cardinal. He should be wanting to stay home with Devontae Smith there. However, this just tells us something that maybe Devontae Smith is going to get some more looks as the years go, as the time progresses. Maybe this is a trend that'll emerge even more. But another thing is A.J. Brown is just a bigger guy. He's a very talented guy, and he's being schemed up and all these other factors. So I'm going to say no on Philadelphia. New York Giants. Okay, you've got two receivers leading the way right now. You've got Richie James going, and you've got Sterling Shepard going. Sterling would be a no. Richie James would kind of be a yes, but it's really a wash in this environment. But this does tell us something. With Daniel Jones as a Gemini, we want to see a Cardinal emerge out of there. And Wan'Dale Robinson is a Cardinal. So if he does begin to emerge, get your hands on him quickly, okay? I would wait until he does start to emerge, but don't hesitate if he starts showing those signs, okay? Moving into Tampa Bay, this whole receiving core is chock full of mutables and Aquariuses, and so there's not a lot of contrast in this environment, but it is showing, sure, absolutely, this is the pattern that we see fixed moving towards mutable. Okay, New Orleans Saints, I've called this one Chris Olave's. This is one that astrology says Chris Olave should be the favorite. He got the most targets as a rookie in the second week of the season. That's a little crazy to me. It's already showing itself. Yes, Olave's talented. And so, bingo, New Orleans, we're going to call it, okay? Carolina, this one is interesting, okay? You've got Robbie Anderson, who I believe should be the favorite here. And you've got DJ Moore, who also has pretty good chemistry. They're pretty comparable. But I do believe Robbie Anderson has already started to show it in week one. Taurus has had some really tough transitions in the planets this past week and at this point in the season. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to give it a check. Atlanta, absolutely Drake London staying home in the fix instead of going backwards to Kyle Pitts in the mutable. That's what Mariota would prefer. I'm going to call Atlanta a check, okay? San Francisco, I'm going to say Deebo Samuel's considered the main dog over there, but it should be Ayuk. So astrology has yet to really emerge. Ayuk did have a stronger week last week, but this tells us maybe we should get in on Ayuk before this astrology starts to really show itself, because it is absolutely perfect with Jimmy G as a Scorpio. Not only is he moving into that mutable perfectly, but it's also they share the water elements, so they should really speak that language and have a lot of success. Down with the LA Rams, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, that is perfect astrology. Aquarius to Gemini, 100% astrology shows itself. Seattle, I'm going to call it a wash. Tyler Lockett should be favored over Metcalf in this environment, okay? He did this last week. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to give astrology credit for accurately predicting this just yet. Arizona, I'm going to say yes. This is a funny one. Greg Dortch, the Torch, who's been having a lot of success, is a Gemini. Now remember what I say when there's matching, there's three Geminis. So usually if one Gemini establishes himself in the environment, that disempowers the environment for the other Geminis, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. It's going to look for where it can express its energy in a unique way. So perhaps that's why Marquise Brown has been struggling as a Gemini, because Dortch has really been the guy, and Dortch has Rondale Moore's role. So when Rondale Moore gets back, perhaps, okay, I told you he could be a really nice cheap trade target But I am cautious around Arizona. They've looked pretty bad, okay? I just actually traded away Kyler Murray for Wentz in a nice package. So going up here to Miami, I do believe it's kind of showing there's not a lot of contrast in this environment. Once again, you got two mutable signs in Hill and Waddle. We know they're going to use them. Sagittarius, I would probably prefer because Water does want to move to fire. Tyreek Hill is staying at home in Water. It's a very comparable. They're both ruled by Jupiter, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I would say Miami is showing astrology, sure. Buffalo, Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, polar opposite. You've got Gemini moving to Sagittarius. Yeah, we can call that all day. Okay? New England, once again, Nelson Aguilar. I would say absolutely. He's pretty comparable to Jacoby Myers, but they're both definitely above Devontae Parker, okay, who should be the big alpha guy over there, right? He's the big prototypical receiver, but it's not those guys. It's the astrology guys who are getting the targets. Jets, this is one of my favorite examples here. Garrett Wilson, let's look at it, okay? You've got Flacco as a Cardinal, Garrett Wilson as a Leo. He's the only fixed in that environment. Davis is a Cardinal, okay? And you've got another Cardinal in Elijah Moore as an Aries. So Flacco's going to want to move to fixed. Now, when Zach Wilson gets in there, he's a fixed as well. He's a Leo. So he's either going to want to stay home or move to mutable. So that means that Garrett Wilson should maintain favorability throughout whatever quarterback is in there. Okay, Garrett Wilson, do you want to trade to pick him up? You might want to, man. The Jets actually, offense has been moving it. So I really like Garrett Wilson as people are trying to sell high on him, maybe try to take advantage a little bit because he could actually continue, I believe. Okay, Pittsburgh. I'm calling Trubisky, he's a Leo Virgo cusp. I'm calling him a Virgo. And I do believe with Deontay Johnson, absolutely, this is what we expected to see. We could call that all day. Baltimore, bit of a wash here. You have Bateman, who would be a yes, and you have Andrews, who would be a no, according to this rule. Now, they do share both earth elements. Lamar Jackson and Andrews share earth elements. Lamar Jackson's a Cardinal, right? So, but Bateman has more yards, Andrews has more targets, so it's kind of a wash. I'm not going to give astrology quite credit for this one. Cleveland, absolutely. Amari Cooper's an easy call, but he also has the best astrology. Yeah, baby. Cincinnati, Cincinnati, I feel like Jamar Chase is the dominant guy over there, but the attraction, the astrology says it should be T. Higgins. So we can value T. Higgins a little bit more, perhaps. Yeah, because that's the exact same chemistry as Rodgers to Devontae Adams. It's the mutable going to the Cardinal. It's the fire going towards the earth. We love to see that. But in Cincinnati, astrology didn't quite get it there yet. Once again, guys, of course. Also, Jamar Chase has all the history with Joe Burrow. What do we expect? History also, time together, creates chemistry as well. So there are other factors to consider, talent and all these things that we should also be considering. But this is just pure astrology, right? Jacksonville. This is a huge example of yes. Christian Kirk. Yes. We can predict him as being the most productive guy over there. Zay Jones, yes. Marvin Jones Jr. should be fading, right? That would be Trevor Lawrence as a Libra. He doesn't want to go back to that mutable Marvin Jones Jr. as a Pisces. He wants to move forward into that Scorpio as a fixed, which is Christian Kirk. Okay? Beautiful, right? We see it in Jacksonville. Houston, you got Brandon Cooks as a Libra, the main guy over there, the most savvy veteran, very talented guy for many years in the league, knows what he's doing. He's the main guy over there. No big surprise. Astrology, it should be Nico Collins according to astrology. Not quite getting Houston right. But hey, something to consider. Indianapolis, I'm calling Matt Ryan he's a Taurus Gemini cusp, and I always will pick the latter part of that cusp, which means he would be a Gemini, and he would favor Pittman big time in that situation. So we called this at the beginning of the year, And I do believe Pittman has really top 5 type potential. If you can get him in a trade with his injury, this is a guy I've been targeting hard all year. Love it. Tennessee, I'm going to give it a check mark. I do believe Kyle Phillips has been showing that, even though he was injured week 2. He's been showing favoritism as a Gemini in that environment. A question from my audience. They're asking, what happens when Malik Willis gets in there? As a Gemini, Malik Willis will absolutely prefer Treylon Burks. That is a beautiful match as well. So Kyle Phillips will still have value in that offense as a Gemini and a slot receiver, of course, but there will be a favoritism there. Malik throws a nice deep ball. I think Tannehill does as well, but that's what we have in Tennessee. Kansas City, Travis Kelce, Libra, coming from a Virgo, moving to that Libra Cardinal. Perfect match. Yeah, baby. LA Chargers. Okay, I'm going to say Keenan Allen's kind of the main guy over there, but really it should be Mike Williams. So we saw it a little bit last year, but then it kind of faded. So I'm going to say it hasn't quite emerged. I'm not going to say Astrology has accurately predicted this one, but it shows us that Mike Williams could really emerge, guys. Denver, okay. Cortland Sutton should be the guy over there, over Judy. It's been the talks of training camp. It looks like that is what has been happening. I'm going to say yes. Las Vegas Raiders, this is a really kind of easy one. Devontae Adams has got good chemistry, staying home with the Cardinal over the Mutable and Waller. And, of course, Devontae Adams is going to be the guy over there. So it's kind of a, an easy one to predict. It's a convenient one, but it is what it is. There it is, guys. Only 8 environments. Okay, not considering talent. Astrology accurately predicted all these different environments in which we had no idea who was going to be the favorite receivers. Environments like the Jets, environments like Washington. Week 2 into the 2022 season, Astrology is approximately 75% accurate. Guys, this is such a powerful tool. Let me know if you guys dig it. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next video, and cheers.